The storm was the worst Karen 7 had seen in many years. Dark clouds covered the sky like a giant black blanket. Blue lightning flashed across the horizon. Strong wind screamed through the rocky valleys. Rain hit the ground so hard that it looked like millions of tiny bullets. Most people stayed inside during storms like this. But Ethan Ward was still outside. The human explorer pulled his coat tighter as he walked across the muddy ground. His small transport vehicle had broken down several miles away, forcing him to return to his outpost on foot. Every step became harder. The rain blurred his vision. The wind pushed against him. Still, Ethan kept moving. He had survived worse. At least, that was what he thought. Then he heard it. A scream. He stopped instantly. The sound vanished beneath the thunder. For a moment, Ethan wondered if he had imagined it. Then he heard again. A cry for help. Weak. Painful. Definitely real. Ethan looked around. Nothing. Only darkness. Only rain. Only endless rocks and dead trees. Another scream echoed through the storm. This time it came from the east. Ethan hesitated. Karen 7 was dangerous even on a good day. People disappeared here all the time. Following strange sounds during a storm was not smart. But something about the scream bothered him. Someone was in trouble, and he could not ignore it. Ethan activated the flashlight attached to his wrist device and moved toward the sound. The ground became rougher. Sharp rocks covered the area. Several times he almost slipped. The scream came again. Closer now. Then his light found something. A body, lying in the mud. Ethan froze. For a second, he thought it was a dead animal. Then lightning flashed overhead, and he saw her. An orc girl. She looked young, maybe 20 years old. Her green skin was covered with cuts and bruises. Long silver hair stuck to her face because of the rain. Part of her armor was broken. Blood mixed with the mud beneath her body. She was barely conscious. Ethan slowly approached. The girl opened her eyes. The moment she saw him, fear filled her face. She tried to move away. She failed. Her body was too weak. "Stay back," she whispered. Her voice shook. Ethan raised both hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." The orc girl stared at him. Humans and orcs had not trusted each other for generations. Wars. Battles. Old hatred. Everyone knew the stories. She had every reason to fear him. Suddenly a distant sound reached them. Engines. Several engines. Ethan looked toward the dark horizon. Small lights moved through the storm. Vehicles. Fast vehicles. Coming this way. The orc girl's eyes widened. "No," she whispered. "They found me." Ethan looked back at her. "Who found you?" The girl tried to sit up. Pain immediately forced her back down. "They won't stop." Her breathing became faster. "They'll kill me." The lights in the distance were getting closer. Very close. Ethan could now hear the engines clearly. Whoever was coming had equipment powerful enough to travel through the storm. That was not normal. Not on Karen 7. Not for ordinary hunters. The orc girl grabbed Ethan's sleeve. For the first time, fear completely broke through her strong appearance. "Please." Just one word. Just one simple word. But Ethan heard the desperation behind it. He looked toward the approaching vehicles. Then back at the injured girl. He knew helping her could become a serious problem. He lived alone. He stayed away from galactic politics. He wanted a quiet life. Helping a hunted orc could destroy all of that. Yet when he looked into her frightened eyes, the decision became easy. He sighed. "Can you walk?" She shook her head. Ethan nodded. "Then I'll carry you." The orc girl looked shocked. "Why?" Ethan smiled slightly. "Because leaving you here would make me a terrible person." Before she could answer, he carefully lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. The vehicles were much closer now. Powerful searchlights cut through the storm. They were searching the area, searching for her. Ethan quickly moved toward his hidden outpost. Rain continued to pour from the sky. Lightning flashed above them. Several times he slipped, but managed to keep moving. The orc girl watched him silently. She did not understand him. No human had ever helped her before, especially not like this. After nearly 20 minutes, a small metal building appeared between large rocks. Ethan's outpost. He rushed inside. The heavy door closed behind them. For the first time all night, there was silence. The storm remained outside. Ethan gently placed the girl onto a medical bed. Bright lights revealed the full extent of her injuries. There were more wounds than he expected. Some looked recent. Others looked older. Someone had been hunting her for a long time. Ethan began preparing medical supplies. The girl watched him carefully. "What is your name?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, then finally answered, "Lyra." "Ethan." For a moment, neither spoke. Then a loud beep suddenly echoed through the room. Ethan turned toward his security monitor. A warning signal flashed red. His smile disappeared. Motion detectors had activated. Outside, near the outpost, someone was there. And on the monitor, several armored soldiers slowly emerged from the storm. One of them pointed directly toward Ethan's shelter. Lyra's face turned pale. "They found me." Outside, the soldiers began moving toward the door. And then the power suddenly went out. Everything became dark. Darkness filled the outpost. The power had completely failed. For a few seconds, neither Ethan nor Lyra moved. Outside, the storm continued to roar. Inside, only the red emergency lights remained. Then another sound came. Bang! Something hit the outer door. The soldiers had arrived. Lyra immediately sat up despite her injuries. Pain flashed across her face. "They are here," she whispered. Ethan quickly grabbed a plasma rifle from the wall. His mind raced. The outpost was never built for battle. It was a research station, not a fortress. If the soldiers entered, they would have nowhere to hide. Another loud impact shook the building. Bang! The metal door bent inward. Ethan looked toward the rear exit. There was only one chance. "We leave now." Lyra nodded. There was no time to argue. Ethan helped her stand. She could barely walk, but she forced herself forward. A third impact echoed through the station. The front door was starting to break. Ethan opened a hidden maintenance hatch behind a storage room. Cold air rushed inside. The tunnel led into the rocky wilderness behind the outpost. "Go," Ethan said. Lyra disappeared into the tunnel. Ethan followed and sealed the hatch behind them. Only seconds later, a loud crash echoed through the station. The soldiers had entered, but Ethan and Lyra were already gone. The storm continued through the night. The two figures moved across dark cliffs and narrow paths. Lyra struggled to keep up. Her wounds were still fresh. Several times she nearly collapsed. Each time Ethan helped her. Neither spoke much. They simply focused on surviving. Hours later, the storm finally weakened. The first light of morning appeared beyond the mountains. Ethan led Lyra toward an abandoned mining cave hidden between giant rock formations. The cave had been empty for years. At least, that was what everyone believed. After checking the area, Ethan allowed himself to relax. For the moment, they were safe. Lyra sat near a small fire. The orange light danced across her face. For the first time, Ethan could see her clearly. She looked younger than he first thought. Yet there was sadness in her eyes. A sadness that seemed much older than her age. "You should rest," Ethan said. Lyra stared into the flames. "They won't stop searching." "Who are they?" For a moment, she remained silent. Then she finally answered. "The governor's hunters." Ethan frowned. Governor Marcus Voss. Everyone in this sector knew the name. He controlled dozens of worlds. His armies were powerful. His influence reached everywhere. But why would someone like Voss hunt a single orc girl? Ethan asked the question. Lyra lowered her eyes. "Because I should be dead." The word surprised him. "What does that mean?" She looked toward the cave entrance, as if making sure nobody else could hear. Then she spoke. "My real name is Lyra Varkesh." Ethan saw something change in her expression. Not fear. Pain. Old pain. "My family once ruled the orc worlds." Ethan froze. Suddenly everything made sense. The soldiers. The hunters. The desperation. The fear. Lyra was not an ordinary refugee. She was royalty. An orc princess. The last survivor of a fallen bloodline. Years ago, the orc kingdoms had collapsed during a violent civil war. Most people believed every member of the royal family had died. Apparently, they had been wrong. Ethan stared at her. "So you've been hiding all these years?" Lyra nodded. "Running." The simple word carried years of suffering. She reached beneath her damaged armor. Carefully, she pulled out a small metal object. A crystal, but not an ordinary crystal. Blue light moved inside it. almost like living energy. Ethan immediately recognized advanced data storage technology. "What is that?" Lyra held it tightly. "This is why they hunt me." Ethan leaned closer. The crystal looked ancient. "Valuable. Important. What does it contain?" Lyra swallowed. "The truth." Before Ethan could ask more, a sudden growl echoed from outside the cave. Both froze. The sound came again. Louder this time. Not human. Not orc. Something else. Something dangerous. Ethan slowly reached for his rifle. Another growl. Closer. Then glowing eyes appeared beyond the cave entrance. One pair. Then another. Then another. At least 6 creatures surrounded the cave. Shadow wolves. Predators native to Karen, 7. Fast, aggressive, deadly, and very hungry. The largest wolf stepped forward. Its black fur blended with the darkness. Its sharp teeth reflected the firelight. Lyra immediately stood. "We need to leave." Ethan agreed. Unfortunately, the wolves attacked first. The largest beast charged directly into the cave. Ethan fired. Blue plasma exploded through the air. The creature crashed into a wall. But more wolves rushed forward. The cave erupted into chaos. Lyra grabbed a fallen metal rod and swung it at a wolf. The creature flew backward. Another jumped toward her. Ethan shot it before it reached her. For several minutes they fought side by side. Human and orc. Back against the wall. Against impossible odds. Finally, the remaining wolves retreated into the darkness. Silence returned. Both stood breathing heavily. Lyra looked at Ethan. Something had changed. The fear she once felt was fading. Trust was slowly taking its place. Then suddenly the blue crystal began glowing. Brighter and brighter. The cave walls reflected the strange light. A holographic image appeared above the crystal. An old orc man materialized. His face looked serious. His voice echoed through the cave. "If you're seeing this message, then our family has fallen." Lyra's eyes widened. The recording continued. The destruction of our kingdom was not caused by orcs alone. Ethan listened carefully. Then the next words changed everything. There was a human partner behind the betrayal. The hologram flickered. The conspiracy reaches deep inside the Galactic government. The message ended. Silence filled the cave. Ethan and Lyra stared at each other. Neither spoke, because they both understood the same terrifying truth. The enemy was far bigger than Governor Voss, and someone powerful inside the human government wanted this secret buried forever. The cave became silent. Only the sound of the wind could be heard outside. The blue crystal stopped glowing. The old hologram disappeared, but its message remained in Ethan's mind. A human partner. A conspiracy inside the Galactic government. This was much bigger than they had imagined. Lyra stared at the crystal in her hands. For years she had run from hunters. For years she believed Governor Voss was the enemy. Now she understood something terrifying. Voss was only one piece of a much larger game. He lied to everyone, Lyra whispered. Ethan nodded, and someone powerful helped him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan noticed something strange. The crystal was still glowing faintly. Not bright, not like before, but enough to catch his attention. "What is it doing?" he asked. Lyra looked down. A small symbol had appeared inside the crystal. A blinking white dot. Then another. Then a map slowly formed in the air. Both moved closer. The map showed a mountain range far north of their location. At the center was a flashing marker. A hidden location. A secret destination. Lyra's eyes widened. My father never mentioned this. Ethan studied the map carefully. Whatever waited there had been hidden for many years. Maybe even decades. Looks like he left one last secret. Lyra closed her hand around the crystal. Then she looked directly at Ethan. We have to go. Ethan already knew she was right. If answers existed anywhere, they were waiting beneath those mountains. The journey took 2 days. They traveled through frozen valleys and abandoned mining zones. Several times they spotted patrol ships searching the area. Each time, they avoided detection. The further north they traveled, the colder the planet became. Massive snowstorms covered the mountains. Ancient cliffs stretched toward the clouds. Everything felt lifeless, forgotten. as if the galaxy itself wanted nobody to find this place. Finally, on the third night they arrived. The mountain stood alone, far larger than the others. Its peak disappeared into dark clouds. At first it looked ordinary. Then Lyra activated the crystal. Blue light shot toward the mountain. Suddenly part of the rock wall moved. A hidden entrance appeared. Ethan stared in disbelief. That's impossible. The entrance looked ancient. No records mentioned anything here. No maps showed it. Someone had erased this place from history. The massive doors slowly opened. Cold air rushed outward. Darkness waited inside. Ethan checked his rifle. Lyra tightened her grip on the crystal. Together, they entered. The tunnel stretched deep underground. Metal walls replaced natural stone. Old lights flickered above them. Some still worked. Others had died years ago. Dust covered everything. It felt like walking through a ghost world. Then they reached the first chamber. Both stopped immediately. Rows of giant glass containers filled the room. Hundreds of them. Some shattered. Some intact. Each large enough to hold a person. Or something much larger. Ethan slowly approached one container. Inside were claw marks. Deep claw marks. Something had once been trapped there. Something strong. Lyra's face became pale. What is this place? Ethan didn't answer, because he was asking himself the same question. Then they found the control room. Most screens were dead, but one still worked. The moment Ethan activated it, files appeared. Thousands of files. Research logs. Experiment records. Military reports. The deeper they searched, the worse the truth became. Lyra's hands began shaking. No. Her voice barely came out. Ethan continued reading. His stomach twisted. The facility had belonged to Governor Voss. Long before he became governor. Long before the war. This was a secret laboratory. And the subjects were orcs. Thousands of orcs. Men. Women. Children. Nobody had volunteered. They had been taken. Used for experiments. Used as test subjects. Used as living tools. Ethan felt sick. The records described genetic testing. Biological weapon projects. Military enhancement programs. Failures were eliminated. Successes were weaponized. Every page revealed another nightmare. Lyra stared at the screen. Tears slowly filled her eyes. My people. Ethan looked at her. For the first time since meeting her, she looked completely broken. Not angry. Not afraid. Broken. Then they found the final file. The most important one. The truth about her family. Ethan opened it. An old video recording appeared. A familiar orc man stood before the camera. Lyra froze. It was her father, the former orc king. His face looked tired, but determined. If anyone sees this, he began, then we have failed. The recording continued. He explained everything. Years ago, he discovered the secret experiments. He gathered evidence. He planned to expose Voss before the Galactic Senate. But someone betrayed him. Someone inside the human government. Together, they launched a war. The royal family became targets. The kingdom fell. Millions died. The recording ended. Silence returned. Lyra lowered her head. Tears fell onto the floor. For years she had wondered why her family died. Now she knew. They were murdered because they knew the truth. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. You were never the problem. Lyra looked up. Her eyes were red. They took everything. Ethan nodded. I know. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Lyra asked quietly, what happens now? Ethan looked at the evidence. The files. The recordings. The truth. We exposed them. Something changed inside Lyra. A small spark returned. Hope. For the first time in years. Maybe justice was still possible. Maybe her people could finally learn the truth. Then an alarm suddenly exploded through the facility. Red lights flashed everywhere. Warning sirens echoed through the underground halls. Ethan instantly grabbed his rifle. What happened? A security screen activated automatically. The image appeared, and both froze. Dozens of military dropships were descending outside the mountain. Hundreds of soldiers surrounded the entrance. Heavy tanks rolled through the snow. At the center stood a massive command ship. A familiar symbol covered its hull. Governor Voss. He had found them. Then a transmission appeared on the screen. The governor himself stepped into view. Older, cold, smiling. You have caused me many problems, princess. Lyra's face hardened. Voss looked directly into the camera. Then his smile widened. Do not worry. His voice became darker. You won't leave this mountain alive. Outside, explosions shook the entire facility. The final battle had begun. The entire mountain trembled. Explosions echoed through the underground facility. Dust fell from the ceiling. Red warning lights flashed across every hallway. Governor Voss had arrived. And this time, he had brought an army. Ethan quickly shut down the main control screen. We have to move. Lyra nodded. The evidence they had found was too important to lose. If Voss destroyed it, the truth would disappear forever. Together, they gathered every file they could save onto portable data drives. Outside, another explosion shook the facility. Somewhere above them, soldiers were already breaking through the defenses. Time was running out. We need another exit, Ethan said. Lyra activated the crystal. The blue light spread across the room. Hidden passages appeared on an old map. One tunnel led deeper underground, toward a section of the facility that had never appeared on any public record. Ethan looked at the map. Let's go. They rushed into the tunnel. The deeper they traveled, the older the facility became. The walls were covered with strange symbols. Some belonged to the Orc Kingdom. Others were far older, thousands of years older. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. Both stopped immediately. The room was beautiful. A giant glass dome covered the ceiling. Above it, stars filled the night sky. The storm outside had finally ended. For the first time in days, they could see the stars clearly. Ancient machines surrounded the chamber. Most were silent. Most were broken. Yet somehow the place still felt alive, like it had been waiting for them. Ethan lowered his rifle. For a moment, the war outside disappeared. No soldiers. No hunters. No fear. Only silence. Only stars. Lyra slowly walked toward the center of the room. Blue moonlight reflected across her silver hair. She looked peaceful for the first time since Ethan had met her. Neither spoke. Neither wanted to break the moment. Finally, Lyra sat beside one of the old observation windows. Ethan joined her. The galaxy stretched endlessly above them. Beautiful, quiet, free. For several minutes, they simply watched. Then Lyra spoke. When I was little, my father used to bring me here. Ethan looked at her. She smiled faintly. He said no matter how dark life became, the stars would always remind us that there was something bigger. The smile faded. I didn't understand him then. Her eyes lowered. But I do now. Ethan remained silent. Sometimes people needed someone to listen more than someone to speak. Lyra stared at the stars. For years I ran. Her voice became softer. I watched my family die. She swallowed hard. I watched my people suffer. Pain filled every word. And every night, I wondered if I should have died with them. Ethan immediately turned toward her. Don't say that. Lyra looked surprised. Ethan continued. If you had died, nobody would know the truth. She looked away. But I'm tired, Ethan. For the first time, her strength cracked completely. No princess. No survivor. Just a young woman carrying years of pain. I don't know how much longer I can keep fighting. Ethan stared at her. Then he remembered the storm. The frightened girl lying in the mud. The girl who had begged him for help. The girl who had somehow changed his life. Without realizing it. Without trying. Something inside him had changed. Slowly. Quietly. Day by day. And now he finally understood what it was. He cared about her. Far more than he should. Far more than he ever expected. The realization hit him harder than any battle. Harder than any explosion. Harder than any enemy. Ethan looked up at the stars. Then back at Lyra. And for the first time in years, fear entered his heart. Not fear of dying. Fear of losing someone. Losing her. Lyra noticed his expression. What is it? Ethan laughed softly. A nervous laugh. The kind people make when they know there is no easy way to say something. Then he looked directly into her eyes. The galaxy seemed to disappear around them. Only the two of them remained. I think I know why I stayed. Lyra frowned slightly. What do you mean? Ethan smiled. Back in the storm. He paused. When I found you. His voice became quiet. I thought I was saving a stranger. Lyra's heartbeat quickened. Ethan continued. But somewhere along the way, he stopped, gathered courage, then finally said it. I lost my heart. Silence filled the chamber. The words hung between them. Neither moved. Neither looked away. For a moment, Lyra simply stared, as if she could not believe what she had heard. Then tears slowly appeared in her eyes. Not tears of sadness. Something different. Something warmer. Ethan. Her voice shook. You fool. Ethan blinked. What? A small laugh escaped her. The first genuine laugh he had ever heard from her. Then she stepped closer. Much closer. So did I. The world seemed to stop. Neither cared about the war outside. Neither cared about Governor Voss. At that moment, nothing else mattered. Only them. Only this. Only now. For the first time since their journey began, hope returned. Real hope. The kind that survives even in darkness. Then suddenly, boom! A violent explosion shook the chamber. The floor trembled. Warning sirens screamed again. The moment shattered instantly. Ethan grabbed his rifle. Lyra activated the crystal. A security screen flashed to life. Both froze. Governor Voss had breached the facility. His forces were everywhere. Hallway after hallway had fallen. Only one escape route remained, and it was rapidly closing. We have to move, Ethan said. They ran. Through collapsing corridors. Through burning hallways. Through falling debris. Soldiers chased them from every direction. The facility was dying around them. Finally, they reached an old launch platform hidden beneath the mountain. A transport shuttle waited there. Salvation, or so they thought. Suddenly, dozens of enemy soldiers emerged from the shadows. Weapons raised. Ethan opened fire. The battle erupted instantly. Plasma bolts filled the air. Explosions lit the darkness. Lyra fought beside him. For a moment, it looked like they might escape. Then everything went wrong. A stun blast struck Lyra directly. She collapsed. Ethan! The cry echoed across the platform. Ethan turned. His blood ran cold. Enemy soldiers surrounded her. Too many. Far too many. He fought desperately toward her. But another explosion threw him backward. Smoke filled the air. His vision blurred. When it cleared, the soldiers were already retreating, taking Lyra with them. A massive dropship rose into the sky. Ethan ran after it, but it was too late. The ship disappeared into the darkness, and Lyra was gone. The woman who had stolen his heart had been taken, and Governor Voss now had exactly what he wanted. The dropship disappeared into the night. Ethan stood frozen on the burning launch platform. Smoke filled the air. The underground facility was collapsing around him, but he barely noticed. His eyes remained fixed on the dark sky. Lyra was gone, taken by Governor Voss. For the first time since their journey began, Ethan felt completely helpless. He had promised to protect her. He had promised to help her reveal the truth. And now she was a prisoner, somewhere out there, alone. A loud explosion shook the mountain. The ceiling above him cracked. Ethan finally moved. Not because he wanted to, because he had to. Lyra was still alive. And as long as she was alive, there was hope. He picked up the data drives containing the evidence. Then he escaped the collapsing facility. Behind him, the mountain exploded. Fire lit up the frozen night. The secret laboratory vanished forever. But its secrets survived, because Ethan carried them, and he planned to use them. 3 days later, the galaxy began to change. Ethan traveled across multiple worlds. Everywhere he went, he searched for allies. Most people feared Governor Voss. Some refused to help. Others called him crazy. But not everyone. A few people still believed in justice. Former soldiers joined him. Rebel pilots joined him. Orc survivors joined him. Even government officials secretly contacted him. The evidence was powerful. The truth was finally impossible to ignore. Soon a small resistance force formed around Ethan. It was not large. It was not rich. But every person had the same goal. Stop Voss. Save Lyra. Expose the truth. Meanwhile, aboard Voss's flagship, things were getting worse. Lyra sat inside an energy prison. Cold metal walls surrounded her. Guards watched her day and night. But she was not afraid anymore. For years she had run. For years she had hidden. That part of her life was over. Governor Voss visited her personally. The old man walked into the cell with a confident smile. You caused quite a mess, princess. Lyra said nothing. Voss laughed. The funny thing is, you still think you've won. He stepped closer. You have the evidence. He smiled wider. But nobody will ever see it. Lyra finally looked at him. You sound worried. For a moment, the smile disappeared. That alone gave her satisfaction. Voss leaned closer. You should have stayed hidden. Then he turned and left. But Lyra noticed something important. For the first time, Governor Voss looked nervous. The truth was spreading. And he knew it. 2 days later, Ethan's resistance fleet reached Voss's flagship. The massive warship floated near the edge of a distant star system, protected by dozens of battle cruisers, thousands of soldiers, enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The odds were impossible. Ethan smiled. He had seen impossible odds before. The command bridge became silent as enemy ships appeared on the scanners. One rebel officer looked at him. We're outnumbered 5-1. Ethan stood. Then let's make them remember this day. The battle began. Space exploded into chaos. Lasers crossed the darkness. Missiles streaked between ships. Fighters raced through clouds of fire. Entire cruisers shattered apart. The resistance fleet pushed forward. Every minute brought more destruction. Every minute brought them closer to Lyra. Ethan piloted a strike shuttle directly toward the flagship. Enemy fighters chased him. Weapons fired from every direction. Still he kept going. Nothing would stop him now. Not fear. Not death. Not Voss. Inside the flagship, alarms suddenly filled every corridor. Lyra looked up. Something was happening. Then distant explosions echoed through the ship. A smile appeared on her face. She knew exactly who had arrived. Ethan. The battle moved inside the flagship. Resistance fighters stormed the corridors. Soldiers fought room by room. Fire and smoke filled the giant vessel. At the center of it all, Ethan pushed forward. Every step brought him closer to Lyra. Finally, he reached the prison block. 2 guards rushed toward him. He defeated them quickly. Then he reached the energy cell. Lyra stood inside. For a moment, neither moved. After everything they had survived, they were finally together again. Ethan deactivated the prison field. The barrier vanished. Lyra stepped forward. A smile appeared on both faces. You took your time, she said. Ethan laughed. You know, traffic is terrible in space. For a brief moment, they forgot the war. Then another alarm sounded. Reality returned. They still had one final job. Governor Voss. The final confrontation happened on the command bridge. Voss stood surrounded by loyal soldiers. Large windows revealed the battle outside. His empire was falling apart. Ship after ship was surrendering. Others were joining the resistance. The truth had spread faster than he expected. Ethan stepped forward. The game is over. Voss laughed bitterly. No. He activated a hidden control panel. The flagship began charging its main weapon. A weapon powerful enough to destroy everything nearby, including his own ship. If I fall, Voss said, everyone falls with me. But he had made one mistake. He underestimated Lyra. While he focused on Ethan, Lyra moved silently. She inserted the crystal into the bridge console. Immediately, every screen across the flagship activated. Then every screen across the galaxy activated. The evidence appeared everywhere. The experiments, the recordings, the crimes, the betrayal, everything. Millions watched. Billions watched. The truth could no longer be hidden. Voss stared in horror. His empire collapsed in seconds. His own soldiers lowered their weapons. The fight was over. Months later, peace returned. The surviving orc communities emerged from hiding. New leaders were chosen. Old wounds slowly began to heal. Humans and orcs began rebuilding together. Not because they forgot the past, because they finally knew the truth. One evening, Ethan and Lyra stood beneath a clear sky. The same stars shined above them. The same stars they had watched inside the hidden chamber. Only now there was no fear, no war, no running, only peace. Lyra smiled. Do you remember the storm? Ethan laughed softly. The night I found an injured orc girl in the mud. She nodded. That night changed everything. Ethan looked at her, then gently took her hand. No. A warm smile appeared on his face. That night saved my life too. Together they looked toward the stars. And for the first time in a very long time, the future looked bright.